Now, we had a men's rights activist here about 2 weeks ago, and I've got to tell you, the response was extraordinary. I mean, so many emails, probably more than any other subject, which amazed me. So we're addressing the subject again. Kris Titus is on the board of directors for Fathers for Justice Canada, but it's Kris, it's a female. You're a woman.
I am.
I'm very perceptive. Years of university. You're a woman. What are you doing campaigning for the rights of men?
I have a very intimate interest in this subject. I was actually raised without my father.
Yeah.
Did not know him growing up. I've gone through a separation of my own and seen how the court system wanted to handle our case. And I am also married to a divorced man.
But the first two examples, I assume, would make you more angry at men and the justice system, the way it treats women.
Not at all, actually. It was very obvious to me how it affected my life not having a father growing up. And with 300,000 new family law cases every year, there's a lot of children involved.
In Canada?
In Canada.
300,000 new ones here. Family law lawyers must just be rubbing their hands at this.
Yes, I would think as stakeholders in the system, they certainly do benefit from keeping people fighting rather than coming to resolutions.
Let's talk about that, because I'm not here to bash lawyers, although I do quite enjoy bashing lawyers. Because I know, seriously, there are too many lawyers, and I meet many lawyers who are far more interested in the law than they are in justice, and will defend people they know are scum. But family law, there are good people, but it's in their interest to make sure that if you can just settle something amicably, I mean, you might divorce, you're not going to be loving each other, you know, but you can say, look, let's be adult here, let's make sure the kids don't suffer. That doesn't give money to any lawyers, does it?
No, it doesn't, not at all. And I've actually witnessed a grandmother putting down the last $15,000 she had from when her husband passed away to help her son fight for his child.
My golly. Well, let's talk about custody issues. I said this when we had our last guest on a couple of weeks ago. There are a couple of people I know who are on television frequently. I won't mention their names, I wouldn't dream of it, but if I mention names, everybody would know who they are. Mm-hmm. And one of them, he cried. He was sitting, it was privately, he cried. He just burst into tears. He's a pretty tough fella because he was divorced. It was no one's fault, the marriage failed. And he was given joint custody, which was, what is it, every second weekend, one night a week and half the holiday.
Which is sort of a bit of a misnomer, calling that joint custody.
Well, it is, but he wasn't given that. Every time, and I realized this was by no means untypical, every time he'd go around to the house, his ex-wife would say, no, she doesn't feel well. And he could hear her saying, I want to see Daddy, I want to see Daddy. And the one time when he banged on the door and then he kicked it, she called the police and he spent a night in jail.
Only one? Mm. Oh, he got off easy then, I think. Well, I mean, the incentive there for a woman to place a claim of false allegations on a man is sole custody of the children and full child and spousal support. That's a pretty big incentive. The majority, actually, I believe it's over 50% of first-time batteries actually occur after a separation, not prior to. And that is pointing to the bigger problem of women as victim, male as perpetrator. That is the psyche that we have got to break through.
But the Montreal massacre led to the hysteria after that. And we didn't say here was someone who was raised by a Muslim father. We didn't say this was someone who was mentally ill. We said it was because he was a man. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars on gun control after that, because women are always victims.
Well, women aren't always victims. Do you ever hear about the 3 men that were actually killed in that massacre as well? Where are we honoring them every year?
I didn't even know that.
There were 3 men that were also killed. And from the stories that I've heard, they were killed trying to actually defend the women. So we've got to get past this idea that men are perpetrators and women are victims, because frankly, the statistics are almost equal as to who batters more.
But if a 110-pound woman attacks a 230-pound man, it's very different from the contrary, isn't it? An average man punching a woman will damage that person. A woman, there's a difference in size.
A black eye is a black eye, whether it is a man or a woman wearing it. Scratches are scratches, broken noses are broken noses. Women are equally capable of doing physical damage.
You're telling me that physical abuse, it's as common for a woman to abuse a man in a relationship as a man to abuse a woman?
It's a difference of 1 percentage point across this country.
What about the extent of damage? I mean, I know this sounds very clinical, but how often do women kill men? We know cases of men who have killed partners, killed women.
I don't actually know what the statistics are on that specifically, but we also see women get a far more lenient ride through the criminal justice system than men do as well. We are much more sympathetic as a society when a woman abuses a man. Typically, we view it as her defending herself as opposed to actually being the aggressor.
Are you called an Uncle Tom, a self-loather? Do you get terms like this thrown at you?
No, not at all.
Oh, sorry,
I do certainly get the women that challenge me, but in my 12 years of doing this, I've had far more women come forward and say, thank God someone is speaking common sense.
Of course, when it comes to custody, and that's a large part of this, it's the children who should be most important. But we've forgotten that marriage is meant to be a child-centered institution. We think it's all, I mean, adopt who you want. I mean, if you're a lesbian couple in California and you want to castrate your little boy.
If you're Jennifer Aniston and you want to have a child without a man in your life, that is actually the way that I was raised. I was actually raised during that first generation of the real radical feminist women's movement where I did not need a man in my life.
You don't seem maladjusted, though. You seem okay.
Well, I'm glad you think so, and I'm sure everyone else that I've worked with over many years on this, including politicians, other lawyers, other activists and academics. I mean, we're all coming from the same viewpoint.
Guarantee I will now be inundated with emails from, I mean, this is not a laughing matter. There are so many, I had no idea until fairly recently, there are so many desperate men out there who are searching. It's like someone who has cancer and will go anywhere and do anything. They're very vulnerable because they'll do anything to try and to live. There are men who are so desperate to see their children, to get some help, they'll do pretty much anything. They're going to send hundreds of emails to me now. Give out a website, please. Oh,
well, if you want to contact somebody that's really trying to make changes for the law so that it is far more equitable, you want to contact the Canadian Equal Parenting Council. Right. They are at www.canadianepc.org.
Okay. Is that your group?
I was co-president of that organization for 2 years. I'm actually no longer with Fathers for Justice right now either.
Sorry. Got that wrong.
But that's okay. I was with them for many years and proud to have been so. I'm currently Director of Research for the Gender Issues Education Foundation.
Now, see, that sounds very lefty and feministic. Gender issues.
Gender issues, yes. Look at our universities right now. I mean, we are studying women's issues throughout the universities, but we've only recently had the first men's program come forward.
Well, I don't know if I agree with the men's program.
Well, why?
I'd rather get rid of the women's programs and have a men's program.
I agree with you on that, and I would stand on that with the status of women as well. I think the very existence of that organization is biased, and it needs to go.
Well, I think what is an open wound in the society, and it just makes me very emotional, is that we don't have enough transgendered studied programs. I think every university should have many, many trans... I was joking. Thank you for your time. It's lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here. Thank you.